Tuesday. Everybody knows exactly what that means. How you doing, Joey?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Another week,
Dude,
another week.
I don't know about you, but I'm so busy. Just
Me
constantly.
too. I can't wait for some trips coming up here. I can't wait to come visit you in July,
It'll be
and
fun,
then another trip.
right?
Just need to get away from work.
Dude, I understand that. Well, speaking of that, so I was so busy I couldn't remember. Did we talk about solar last week?
I think we touched on it briefly, but I don't think we talked about it too in depth. Just kind of discussed if we thought it would be a viable option
Did I?
one day.
Sorry, I didn't
But
mean to interrupt you. Did I tell you about how all of the everyone's basically saying gas is going to get more expensive because everyone's investing in the green energy. And people are they're basically stopping all their investment in the gasoline firms, and that's what's driving the price up.
No, we didn't discuss that. So what's the background on that?
So this is super interesting, I think, because it's like it goes kind of against conventional knowledge. You think, if there's less people investing in it, obviously the price of something has to come down, lower demand, higher supply, and all that. But basically, how it was explained to me was now that there are so many incentives for companies and investors to invest in you know what ESG is?
No, what is ESG?
It's like economic or some of the social governance. Basically it basically just means like socially responsible investing, so investments in like green activities and technology and such. So
Okay.
what they're saying is that now that there's all this money and there's all these incentives poured into the ESG companies, nobody's investing in the gasoline companies. And I'm like, well, that's fine, obviously it's going to drive the price down, right? No, the opposite's happening. Because they don't have the money to invest in the drilling and the new production, I guess, it's basically making it more expensive for them to get the oil to us. Totally backwards from what I would originally think.
Yeah, I mean, initially you would think it'd be the other way around. If there's supply and demand. If there's no demand for it, then there's going to be more supply. So it should be cheaper, you would think. But it
Right.
definitely makes sense then if they're not getting the proper investments and the correct capital in order to fund all the drilling and the activities that it takes. I guess it does make sense. Then they'd have to hike the prices up to cover their costs. So.
Yeah, if you're looking at it that way. What about did you hear about the Chinese stopping all the Bitcoin farms they have?
I did see a little bit on that. I didn't read too much in depth in it, but what's been going on with Bitcoin? Because I know Tesla backed out of going fully being able to buy a Tesla with a Bitcoin as well. What happened there as well?
So everyone's
What's
all at
going
once realizing that they have to burn unbelievable amounts of gasoline and energy in order to maintain all the electronics needed to farm. It's like mining the bitcoins is what it's called, which is you know what that is, right?
Yeah, you need like a really. I don't know in depth what it is, but I know it takes really nice computer, and you just let it run.
I
That's
figured you
about
would
my
know more about that
knowledge.
than I do. You're more on the technology side than I am.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of the farms of them before, and it just looks like a big room with a bunch of computers in them, bunch of boxes, and they're just running. So
Jeez.
I don't know what the programs take or how to go about it. I thought about looking into it before, but I don't think my parents would be too happy if I just ran my computer 24/7.
Yeah, I think I don't think my little MacBook could handle it. I don't. I think maybe in 2 years I'd have half of one Bitcoin, and then I wouldn't be able to use it for work. I'd be like, well, and it's all price dependent. Well, I guess
Yeah, exactly.
now that we'll stay on this topic for a minute. So, do you know what BlockFi is?
No, what is BlockFi?
BlockFi is one of these new exchanges. Basically, it's kind of like what's the big one? You probably know what that is. It's just
Blockchain?
No, that's the technology. There's whatever. It's one of those companies that basically lets you exchange all these different currencies for each other. And so what
Okay.
BlockFi is doing, and you're going to find this interesting, and I'll actually be very surprised if you don't sign up for one. They're basically they're issuing credit cards that like when you get cash back rewards on your normal credit card.
Hmm.
They're doing that, except your cashback rewards are Bitcoin shares.
Whoa!
Yeah, kind of wild. So
What is
there's
that's
obviously
fascinating.
there's like a limit to it, but the reward is, obviously you spend money on their credit card and they reward you by giving you tiny fractional shares of Bitcoin that obviously appreciate or depreciate in value. It's
Wow.
pretty cool technology.
So then with this BlockFi, so then could you exchange like between types of I can't even think of. Could you switch between like Bitcoin and Ethereum per se?
Absolutely. Oh Oh yeah, it would go right in your BlockFi account, and you could exchange it however which way you wanted. So basically, I mean, you're it's encouraging spending, which I think is good for everyone. But then at the same time, it's it's getting more people into this world, this crazy new world of I don't even want to call it investing at this point. It's all speculation and assets that don't matter. Basically, everything's being rewritten, and so I just think it's wild. I'm signed up for one.
I know, I'm tempted to. That's what the one, not whenever I brought up blockchain, that wasn't what I meant. I meant Coinbase. I think that's the one I've used in the past. Yeah, I have that app on my phone.
Yeah, they're the biggest one because they're a public company, so that means they've got Daddy SEC's protection.
Yeah, that's the one I've used in the past. Is BlockFi on any app stores? Do you know, or is that all?
So this is actually very interesting. I'm glad you asked that. So pretty much all the cryptocurrency exchanges are not legal in the U.S. Technically, they're like foreign subsidies basically, but they have like U.S. versions that hardly offer anything. So I've seen both. I don't know exactly what they offer differently, but I know the ones that you can't get in the United States are the ones that have all the goodies that everyone wants. And I think that's really interesting because we're so heavily regulated.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that would make sense as to why you can't get on the online casinos where you can gamble cryptocurrencies. So
exactly.
That's why they're blocked in the United States then.
The SEC they do not want us to do that, which to their credit is probably a good thing because half of them are scams anyways.
Mm-hmm. So is it so heavily regulated just because then they don't have control over it, or is it?
So I think that's part of it. Yeah, think about it. Like if you're running it and you say, if someone hands you the keys and the government says, look, you need to make sure that the fewest investors get screwed over as possible. You're like, well, the first thing I do is I try to ferret out scams. Where are the most scams? Cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And I would put the financial sector on there too, but they get away with everything. So the financial sector, I came up with this analogy over the weekend. They are literally the kids whose parents were way too strict when they were young, and they figured out all the ways around everything.
That's fantastic. That is so right.
I think
it's been going on for forever. I mean, it just changes. You look back at the 90s whenever people were exploiting penny stocks, and then flash forward to now and people are exploiting cryptocurrencies. I mean, it's the same game, just the parts and pieces change.
I totally agree. Well, so Gary Gensler is the name of the guy that I think it was Joe Biden that put him in specifically. Either way, so he's going to be the new guy head of the SEC, and he is a hawk for these things. So I'm really curious to see basically how he goes about trying to lock it down without without putting too much of a damper on the free markets. So I'm actually totally all for the regulate cryptocurrency thing to a very, very big point, where the whole point of this technology is literally to free the markets up more. It's to basically say this is an unregulated entity like this. We're putting our money here because there's no central bank to control it. So what happens when the central bank says we're now controlling it? Kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah,
then it just becomes the same as everything else, I would think,
Yeah, it's a little goofy, right? Well, what was the other thing I was looking into? So China, basically the Chinese government was like, we can't justify how much energy we're spending on these, so it's now illegal to have a Bitcoin farm. And that is the same thing as with the gasoline and solar we just talked about, where I was like, well, that's gonna mean there's fewer out there, there's fewer in production, which technically means the supply is larger and the demand is lower. Wouldn't that raise the price up? But it's like half of what it was 2 months ago and continuing to fall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think Bitcoin's going to continue to fall, or do you think it's like any other type of market? It's just up and down. You never know.
Dude, it's a crazy. It's
going to bottom out eventually, because I remember when Elon was talking about it so much and said, he was going to start accepting payments of Bitcoin for a Tesla.
I remember
it skyrocketed. And then as soon as he pulls out, and now China's putting restrictions on farms, and it's just been in a free fall, I feel like.
Yeah. I keep saying this. This last week felt super ominous. So I don't know why it did, but it kind of just did on the markets. And so I can't wait to see in the next 2 weeks what happens, because assets like that are purely just whatever the heck people are feeling at that point. It's like it's all emotion driven.
Do you think we'll ever see a point where where it's accepted as a form of payment for everyday commodities? Like you have a card with your Bitcoin on it,
Probably not
like a
that
debit
one.
card.
Probably not that one specifically, but I think I don't know. We're totally gonna have to rewrite how we pay for everything. We absolutely have to. The system's all weird and messed up. Like, oh God, I had the other thought the other day. I was like, they're doing away with the 10. They're talking about doing away with the 1035 exchanges, 1035, 1031, something like that. It's the exchange basically where when your real estate asset, when you sell your real estate asset, you can immediately transfer that profit that you made directly into a similar asset that you're not living in, basically just another investment property. And if you do that, you defer the tax gain on it. So you can do that in perpetuity and then just like pass it on to your kids and keep going. But they're talking about doing away with that. And it would be really interesting once we start combining cryptocurrencies, decentralized currencies, in real estate investments, because how do you control something like that?
That's a good point. Let's talk about the real estate market as well. Real estate investments.
I love this stuff.
That's what I would say. Real estate, your expertise more so than mine. But do you think the current trend in the real estate market is going to continue, or do you think we're going to see a crash here soon and see the value of houses and other properties decline? Because right now it's at an all-time high. I mean, I almost wish I would have bought a house last year, and now there's no way I could possibly justify purchasing a house. And then even the rent prices now are out of control, I feel like, at least up in the Northeast.
Right. No, that's definitely everywhere. 'Cause I mean, like if you look at it and you say, okay, I'll sell my house for 3 times what it's worth. Now I have to go buy a house for 3 times what it's worth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I'd have to be a fool to tell you I know like what's going to happen, but what's in like it's all public perception, I think. So basically so you probably saw this. The lumber prices had the big old drop this week. Did you see that?
Really?
Yeah. So people are crazy because this happens in every single market cycle where the one asset that everyone's chasing, eventually everyone's chased it so hard that everyone has it. They just got it at the crazy premium price. And now that they all have it, they're like, okay, now we don't want it. Now who's going to buy it from us? And people are like, well, we can get it from all of you. We can get it at whatever price we want. And boom, price goes down. Everyone's got it. It's totally flip-flops. So I can't.
Yeah, just thinking through that then, I mean, if as soon as lumber goes down, then you're going to see an increase, I feel like, in people building homes because lumber will be cheaper.
Construction has been crazy.
Yep.
I can confirm
building
that.
homes and building new buildings is just going to explode.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to hit a saturation point there. And then all of a sudden you're going to have way too many houses again, not enough buyers. And then it's just going to, it just repeats from the last housing crisis, I feel like. So the only question is how many years does that take?
Right. That is the golden question. So we've been speaking with a residential developer, and I obviously cannot share who it is or anything like that. But the direct quote from this guy was, "We are buying every single foot of land we can possibly get our hands on." And it's a pretty major residential developer who operates in many different markets. And I was like, that just kind of confirms like we've got I think I am not omniscient. I have no clue, but if I was a betting man and I had to put 50 cents on it, I'd say I got another year.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll probably know around. We'll have a better idea around like September, because that's when the Q3 report's going to be coming out. We're moving into the final quarter. Everyone's going to be kind of winding down, fixing up their balance sheets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard, Tony Soprano: buy land because God ain't making any more of it.
I love that. So I've never actually seen that show. I really need to.
Yep, watched it over quarantine. It was fantastic. Made it all the way to the last season, and then I kind of trailed off. I don't know. I slowed down, but the first couple of seasons were awesome. And yep, that's what he told his son. He said, "Buy and invest in land because God ain't making any more of it."
When was that show written?
I believe it was early. I know it was early 2000s. I think the last season aired in maybe 06 or 07.
Got it. So it's
that's what in college. I was saying, in college they made us study the final episode of it, so I knew how it ended before I started the show. show. One of my classes, we watched the final episode and examined it and analyzed it because it was so controversial, and I think that's probably why I ended up slowing down.
You knew what was coming, and you started the show willingly.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, a lot of people didn't like the ending, so I won't spoil it in case you ever decide to watch it.
Yeah, please
but
don't. I will watch it.
It's a very controversial ending, but I will say the first couple of seasons are some of the best television that there is.
Shoot, I'll give it a look. All right. Well, either way, we got our 15 minutes worth. So I know we've discussed this off the air, obviously, but this is definitely going to be on Spotify soon. I've been promising that for so long, but we're working on it, and I finally know how to do it. So we're going to get working on that. But either way, anything else, Joey?
No, I guess see you guys next week, and hopefully we'll be on Spotify sooner rather than later.
Fingers crossed for that one. Have a good week, everybody.